To some extent, we all live in our own bubble. And I was absolutely fascinated when I recently did Any Questions to be amongst perhaps the only audience I think you could find in this country that is in favour of mass migration. This isn't the fault of Any Questions. They allow anybody to apply for tickets. It's open to all to go. But the people who went were overwhelmingly in favour of more people coming into this country. Opinion polling shows otherwise. Opinion polling shows that's not the view of the country, and frankly, most of the audiences I come across are utterly fed up with mass migration. They want both legal and illegal migration brought to an end. Net zero is the target for migration, not for carbon emissions. And that's what makes Nigel Farage's recent statement so interesting, because this is going to be a real test for what the country actually thinks. Because the measures we would have to take to make what he's proposing a reality are not for the squeamish and not for the faint-hearted. They are on the scale of what Donald Trump has done. Donald Trump has succeeded. Donald Trump is a role model for anyone who thinks that migration ought to be and can be controlled. He also disproves the argument that it's simply impossible, which has been the line that the blob has taken now for many years. He reduced illegal migration from Mexico into the United States in April alone by 91%. How did he do it? He did it by making sure that their feet didn't touch the ground, that as they arrived, they were removed. They may have gone to prisons in El Salvador, but they were removed. Now, why do I say this is not for the squeamish? Well, some of the people who went to El Salvador are not criminals, are not people who have done bad things. Some of them may even have been in the United States for quite some time. The liberals, the Democrats in the United States have been up in arms about this, but it solved the problem. What Nigel is suggesting is similar in that it's not for the squeamish. He is saying that we will send people back to Afghanistan. We will send people back to countries that we do not think of as being safe countries. And when asked, well, what about what happens to them? He says, that's not our problem. Now, what is important about this is he is being serious about solving the problem and is accepting that the solution has consequences that if you are a bleeding heart liberal, you will not like, and actually you may not like even if you're quite a conservative person. That there are limits, that all of us have some fellow feeling for other people in this world whose lives may be at risk from the regime that they are in. So, what is being proposed? Well, 5 flights a day, 5 deportation flights a day, £10 million being devoted to removing people, agreements to return people to the countries they came from, and with third countries that people can go to, as with the Rwanda scheme, and have their applications processed there, but who won't come back to the United Kingdom, who will not be given asylum in this country. My guess is a scheme like this would succeed, but it's got to be thorough. It's actually got to make sure that anyone who comes over on a small boat is removed immediately. Not in 48 hours, not in a week, not in a fortnight, but immediately, straight away, to a processing centre, to a flight, and out. This will require incredibly focused administration to make it work, but it will also require us to deal with the court system and to deal with the Human Rights Act and the European Convention on Human Rights and the Refugee Convention. Parliament, since we left the European Union, is sovereign. Parliament can legislate to do this. The House of Lords, as it's currently constructed, would hate it. And if you want to know more about that, have a look at my recent piece on Substack about the House of Lords. People would hate this proposal in the House of Lords. The blob would loathe it. The current lefty judges who are allowing people to stay because their children like chicken McNuggets would hate it. But that doesn't mean Parliament can't do it, can't legislate for it. But it means we have to pull out of those international agreements, and it means we have to toughen up our own law, and then we have to make it happen. And then it has to be carried on with at the point at which a mistake is made. Somebody is deported who shouldn't have been, somebody who is deported who has a really good case to be here, somebody who has served perhaps the British, somebody who has very strong ties to this country. And will we have the backbone to put up with it when the mistakes are made. Because if you're dealing with hundreds of thousands into the potentially low millions of people who have come here illegally, and not just in small boats, but also, as I've discussed before, the people who have overstayed on their visas, if you're getting serious about it, inevitably, some people will be removed who ought not to be, who it would be unfair to remove. Look at what happened with the Windrush scandal, when people who had a right to be here were put under pressure to leave. That was an outrage of people who'd been here for decades, and the country turned against the scheme, turned against the hostile environment. And so, what's my answer? Well, my answer is, do the people who are at any questions represent the view of the nation? And actually, are we a nation of soft left, lily-livered liberals who don't want to deal with migration? Well, we recognised that we've got to do it, that the numbers are simply out of control, that we have had too much in too short a space of time, that it is disrupting the infrastructure of this country, the house building of this country, the culture of this country, and that if we don't deal with it, there will be a feel of utter disconnect between the elector and those who are elected, those who are in charge. I happen to think it's the latter. I think that Nigel Farage spelling it out is exactly the right thing to be doing. And to show that there is a plan to do it is crucial, because I'm afraid Labour, with its smash the gangs, and the Tories, Rishi Sunak with the stop the boats, did not manage and will not manage to deliver without doing these fundamental and rigorous things. Do you have the stomach for it? That's the question, because politics always ultimately depends on the stomach of the people, of the great British people. I bet you do.